Hi, this is Mike from Mike's Unboxing Reviews and How To, and on today's video we'll be taking a look at the Thermaltake Toughpower GF A3 1050W power supply. This is a gold rated PSU, new on the market from Thermaltake, and this is designed for those of you that want the premium level of equipment but don't want to pay that premium price. Keep watching to find out why. So today we'll be taking a look at the Thermaltake Toughpower GF A3. Now this is a new range from Thermaltake. Now the GF3 range, which you've possibly seen on the channel before and possibly you've even shopped for already. This is a kind of enhancement of that. So the GF A3 is basically a new model. What they've done is essentially tweaked it a little bit just to bring it into a slightly lower price category. This is something which I personally welcome because, as you know, and if you're a regular here, you know that we do like to get the best value for money where we possibly can with our computing purchases, and this one ticks that box excellently. Now, this particular power supply range, the GF A3 range, has 5 models available currently at the time of recording, ranging from 650 watts up to a whopping 1200 watts, all of which are supporting the ATX 3.0 standards and also PCI Express Generation 5 connectivity. All of them are completely 80 plus gold rated and also come with a 10-year warranty, which is absolutely excellent. And we have a starting price ranging from just under £100, which is absolutely fantastic value for money, considering 10-year warranty, 80 plus gold and fully modular as well. So on today's video, we're going to go through, do a quick unboxing, see what we actually get, go through the cables, the lengths, etc., and talk about some of the specifications and features of this particular power supply. But first of all, you're probably going to be asking the question which I actually asked myself, and that is, what are the actual differences between the GF3 and the GF A3? So let's quickly drill down through them. So when it comes to the main specifications, we've got pretty much similar specs. So Intel ATX 3.0 compatible, both are compliant with that. And also both have the native 16-pin PCI Express Gen 5 connectivity. Where we do have some slight differences is with the actual fan. So with the GF3 range, you're looking at 135mm FDB fan, whereas with the GF A3, we've got a slightly more compact design, and with that we've got a slightly more compact cooling system, which comprises of a 120mm FDB fan. Now when it comes to voltage regulation, very similar. The GF3 range is slightly tighter with around about 2% deviations, whereas the GF A3 we're looking at up to 5% deviations, and also we've got a slightly higher ripple noise from the 30 millivolts on the GF3 range to 50 millivolts on the GF A3. One of the particular reasons why this has slightly different specifications is the capacitors. Now the GF3 range uses 100% total Japanese 105C rated capacitors, whereas to keep the cost down a little bit, with this our main capacitors are still those high quality Japanese 105C capacitors, but the rest are sourced potentially elsewhere. So that is where you essentially get your saving. They save a little bit of money on parts, you save a little bit of money from your wallet. As I discussed as well a little bit earlier, due to the fan, obviously this is a slightly more compact power supply and actually is about 20mm shorter. So if you've got a slightly smaller case and you're a little bit tight for room, then this might be the better choice. Some other very subtle differences is the way the smart fan technology works. Now with the previous GF3 range, you were looking at anywhere up to 40% of the power output before the fan would actually turn on. Whereas with this, because they're being a little bit more cautious, then it kicks in at around about 30% of the total load. So obviously the GF3 is going to be slightly quieter up to a certain point. Realistically, if you're getting the 1050W range, then anything up to 300 watts of system usage is going to be absolutely fine and the fan will not kick in. So mostly idling tasks and even potentially some lower end games. But when you do kick up the wattage a little bit, then the fan will kick in. But don't worry, it's still a fluid dynamic bearing, so it is going to be pretty quiet. So that is the key differences out of the way for those of you that are interested straight off the bat. So let's take a look at the actual product itself. So as you can see, pretty much the same packaging. It looks almost identical other than the fact we've got an A here. We've got all the same specifications. So Gen 5, ATX 3.0, smart zero fan technology, and also main Japanese capacitors rather than being completely Japanese capacitors. But we do have that still stellar 10-year warranty. Looking at the back of the box, pretty much the same deal again, so we've got the same in terms of efficiency for that gold rating, but what we do get is a slightly different fan curve, as I explained a little bit earlier. When it comes to the actual main 12-volt rail, we're still looking at 87.5 amps on that 12-volt rail, the same as you'd get on the GF3. Now, as before, the unboxing experience is absolutely excellent, as you'd expect from Thermaltake, so everything comes really, really well packaged. You of course get your instruction guide and manual, and the power supply itself is really well packed in this really nice styrofoam to keep things nice and secure in transit. So you get the power supply itself in a little bag, and also you get an additional bag which contains all of your cabling. Now we'll put the cable into one side for a moment and we'll take a closer look at the power supply itself. So as I said, it comes in this nice sleeve to keep it protected whilst in transport, and it basically looks exactly the same as the GF3 range, which I think is actually very stylish and will fit in with pretty much most builds. You've got ventilation as per usual on the bottom, and you've got the Thermaltake logo there. This is using a 120mm, so as you can see it is physically smaller, and I'll put the dimensions on the screen right now so you can see how big it is overall. You've also got some ventilation on the side along with some Thermaltake branding, and you've got the same on the other side, although it is flipped, so if you are planning on mounting your power supply upside down, you still get the nice logos on the side. When it comes to the back, again, pretty much the same deal here. So we've got our on-off switch as you'd expect. There's also a little sticker on there which informs you of how the smart fan technology works. So if it's turned off, it's kind of going to be on more than it is going to be in the other position. That is fully explained there. All you need to do is just peel that section off when you're ready to use it. And you can see it's just a standard power connector. Moving around to the business end, so this is fully modular, as you'd expect from a Thermaltake power supply of this kind of caliber. So connectivity wise, you've got your 24-pin connectors at the top. You've got your peripheral or SATA connections there, so you've got 4 outputs there. You've also got at the bottom here, you've got your CPU and your PCI Express outputs, of which there are 5 in total. You can mix and match those, so depending on your particular configuration, if you've got a graphics card which needs 3 8-pin connectors, you can use those and they will all fit in there. And that still leaves you 2 connections free for your motherboard, for the EPS connector. So if your motherboard has 2 8-pin connectors, or maybe 8+4, you can still use all the cablings and give your motherboard all the juice it needs. Obviously, one of the key features going forward is going to be this one on the end. So this is your 12-volt high power. This is one of those controversial connections, but if you're using a NVIDIA graphics card, then you are going to be needing to use this. Of course, obviously, if you're using an NVIDIA card which doesn't have that particular connection, you can still revert back to the older PCI Express type should you need to. On the top of the power supply, you've got the voltages and all the wattages, etc. going on there, so it can tell you exactly what you've got. So on the 12-volt rail, you've got 87.5 amps, which gives you 1050 watts. Plus you've got an additional 100 watts on the 3.5 and 5-volt rails should you need them. And also you've got a little stamp there with the 10-year warranty logo, which is very reassuring. So as you can see, we've got a whole bunch of connectivity here. So again, fully modular, so only use the cables that you actually need. There's going to be some which you are definitely going to need. Obviously, if you're making a PC and building a PC for the first time, then you've got your main 24-pin power connector. This is all using those nice flat black cables as well, so nice and easy to cable manage. This one is 600mm in length. Next up, you've got your EPS connector, or your 4 or 8-pin connector, which goes into the top left-hand side of your motherboard. 2 of these cables are included, so they haven't got any piggybacks or anything. Each one is able to split, so if you've only got a 4-pin connector, you can just split those and use those. Again, 2 are connected. If you only want to use one, you can do. Just leave the other one as a spare. If you upgrade your system at a later date, you've always got the option to install it should you want to, or if you're doing some overclocking. Next up is going to be potentially the star of the show or the biggest bugbear, depending on what your frame of mind is. So this is the 12-volt high power connector, and as you can see, this one is stamped with 600 watts on here, which is something actually I should mention as well. This power supply does handle power excursions, which again is something which is very important these days with modern hardware, especially graphics cards, where they can use considerably more power than they're actually rated for. This is called transient spikes. Now, graphics card wise, this can handle up to 3 times the rating as a very small transient spike. When it comes to your motherboard and components on your motherboard, then it can handle up to a 2 times excursion. So PCI Express Gen 5 ready out of the box, should you want to use it. Obviously, if you don't want to use it, or you've got a graphics card which doesn't have that type of connectivity, don't worry, Thermaltake got you covered. There are actually 3 cables included. So we've got 2 cables which have 2 lots of 6+2 pin connectors. These usual PCI Express type ones for graphics cards. So you get 2 of those on each one of these cables, apart from this one which only has 1. So in total, you have a option of up to 5 connected devices, or 5 lots of PCI Express 8-pin connectors. Of course, for some people, if you're someone who likes to have an individual lead for each one of your connections on your graphics card, and maybe you've got something like a RX 6950 XT, which has got 3 8-pin connectors, obviously you can use one cable for each connection to make sure you get a nice clean power input. Next up is the slightly more mundane stuff. So we've got our SATA connections. So in terms of SATA connections, this has got 4. So you've got 3 of these cables included, so up to 12 SATA type power devices. These are 550mm plus 150mm for each individual step along the chain. And I should say actually for the PCI Express cables, those are 600mm in total. And again, for the PCI Express Gen 5 connection, that is 600mm also. Getting towards the end now, so this is our peripheral connection, or some people call these Molex. Technically that's wrong because Molex is a brand, but I think a lot of people do recognize these as being a Molex 4-pin connector. So there's 4 actually on this cable, just a single cable for that. And if you're using some of Thermaltake's own RGB devices, they've got their own connection, which looks like this. So it normally converts a Molex into what is known as a bird connector, or the floppy drive style connector. One of those adapters is included in the box also. I should also mention that included in the packaging is a mains power cable, which will be suitable for your region. Also a small selection of cable ties, a zip tie as well. So if you want to do a little bit of cable management with that, you can do. And also comes with screws for actually attaching this into your computer. So overall, quite a decent package there, and also obviously a pretty decent price. Now, potentially, if you're watching this, depending when you're watching it, there is also going to be a snow version of this. Now, Thermaltake are really well known for having their ranges, having their default kind of black setup, but also having snow options as well, such as for cases and other things. So they are actually bringing out a version of the GF A3 in the snow variety, so a white power supply, which may fit into your build better. And from what I can see at the moment, the prices do look to be significantly better, other than their black counterparts, which is slightly unusual. So if you take a look over onto scan.co.uk, you can find out some of the latest pricing. I find they have some really good prices on Thermaltake equipment, so if you do want to check those out, you can do. But potentially, at the moment, this particular version, the 1050 in black, is currently retailing for about £150, whereas if you look at the Snow Edition, it is currently on pre-order for £139. So a whole £10 saving, which could be used towards something else in your system. But obviously it is pre-order, so potentially things could change. And the way the economy is at the moment, power supply prices are shooting up through the roof almost on a daily basis. So again, I would strongly suggest before you actually make up your mind on this, check out the links in the video description and check out the very latest pricing in your region. Now obviously in the scope of this review, I don't have the ability to test this in a scientific method, so I'm going from Thermaltake's own website for a lot of the information. And of course it does support all those usual things like over voltage protection, under voltage protection, short circuit protection, over temperature protection, all those kinds of things that you would pretty much expect from a power supply. But as always, if you want the latest details and all the information, please do head over to the Thermaltake websites, which will be linked in the video description, and you can find out all the information and take a look at the other options available for you in this range, or potentially the GF3 range, or potentially if you've got a little bit more money and you want that little bit of extra peace of mind, then potentially look at the Platinum versions in the PF3 range. So I think that's going to pretty much wrap this video up. I hope you enjoyed it. If you have, smash the like button. If you want to see more content like this on a daily basis, hit the subscribe button and also the chime notification, and you'll be notified of future video releases. But for now, I've been Mike. This is Mike's Unboxing Reviews and How To, and hopefully we'll catch you in the very next video. Thanks for watching.